The smell of roasted beans and fresh pastries filled the air every morning as Daniel wiped down the counter of his small cafe. To the regulars, he was the quiet, kind barista who always wore a soft smile. To his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, he was the whole world, her hero, her comfort, her best friend. But behind that gentle smile, Daniel carried a silence that spoke of heartbreak. His wife, Emma, had passed away 2 years ago after a long illness, leaving him to raise Lily alone. The cafe they'd once dreamed of running together had become both his sanctuary and his burden. Every cup of coffee he served was a reminder of the life he once had, and the life he was still trying to rebuild. It was on one of those quiet, cold mornings when she first walked in. A woman in a beige coat, eyes tired, hands trembling slightly as she ordered a cappuccino. Her name, he later learned, was Claire. She sat by the window every day, staring out as though searching for something she'd lost. She didn't talk much, just sipped her coffee slowly, sometimes watching the world outside, sometimes lost in thought. There was something about her sadness that mirrored his own. Before you dive deeper into this story, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the small miracles that change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Silent Hope. Your support keeps these heartwarming stories alive. For weeks, Claire became part of Daniel's routine. Every morning at 8:15, she'd walk in, order her cappuccino, and sit in the same spot. Lily, who often spent her mornings coloring at a corner table before school, had started noticing her too. "She looks sad, Daddy," Lily once whispered, her little eyes filled with concern. Daniel had smiled faintly, saying, "Some people carry heavy hearts, sweetheart. Sometimes a warm coffee helps a little one day." Claire dropped her purse while leaving, and a small photograph slipped out, a picture of a little girl around Lily's age. Daniel picked it up and called out to her, but she was already out the door. When she returned the next morning, he gently handed it to her. She froze when she saw it, her eyes welling with tears. "Thank you," she murmured, her voice barely audible. He wanted to ask about the girl, but something in her expression told him not to. Winter deepened, and the cafe grew busier with people seeking warmth and comfort. Daniel's hands were always moving, grinding beans, steaming milk, wiping counters, but his eyes often drifted toward Claire. There was a fragility about her, a quiet kind of pain that drew him in. One snowy morning, he noticed she hadn't come. Then another day passed and another. Something inside him ached with worry. When she finally returned a week later, she looked pale and weak. "Rough week?" he asked softly as he handed her usual cup. She gave a faint smile. "Something like that." She didn't elaborate, but her eyes told the story her lips couldn't, of sleepless nights, cold loneliness, and perhaps nowhere else to go. That afternoon, as Daniel locked up the cafe, he saw her sitting outside on the bench in the cold, shivering slightly, staring at nothing. "You shouldn't be out here," he said gently. "It's freezing." She gave a weak laugh. "I'll be fine. Just no place else to be right now." His heart clenched at those words. Without thinking, he said, "At least come inside until the snow stops." She hesitated but followed him in. Lily, still inside coloring, looked up and smiled. "You came back," she said cheerfully, recognizing her father's quiet customer. Claire smiled softly at her, that kind of smile that trembles between warmth and sorrow. Over the next hour, the three of them sat together, sipping hot cocoa while snowflakes danced outside the window. Claire spoke little, but Daniel noticed her eyes soften whenever Lily laughed. When it was time to go, Claire thanked him quietly and left again into the snowy night. But Lily, with her innocent wisdom, said something that would change everything. "Daddy, she looks lonely. Can she stay with us?" Daniel froze. It was the kind of request only a child could make. Pure, simple, selfless. He smiled and kissed Lily's forehead. "Not everyone can just stay with us, sweetheart." But deep inside, he couldn't shake off the thought. The next morning, Claire didn't come, nor the next. Then one evening, as Daniel and Lily walked home from the cafe, they saw her sitting outside a closed bakery, clutching her bag, her hair messy, her eyes red. Daniel's heart broke. He approached slowly. "Claire? Are you all right?" She shook her head, whispering, "I'm sorry." I didn't mean for you to see me like this. I lost my apartment and my job. Before she could say more, Lily ran to her and hugged her tightly. Daddy said you can come inside when it's cold, she said innocently. Claire's tears finally fell, her hands trembling as she hugged the little girl back. That night, Daniel offered her the spare room in their small apartment above the cafe. Just until you find something better, he said. At first, she refused. Pride and shame wrestled within her, but when she saw Lily holding her hand with those hopeful eyes, she finally nodded. Thank you, she whispered. Days turned into weeks, and Claire began to feel at home. She helped Daniel open the cafe every morning, cleaning tables and arranging flowers in small jars. The once silent mornings were now filled with laughter and light chatter. Lily adored her. She would braid Claire's hair, show her drawings, and even call her Miss Claire with innocent affection. Daniel watched it all quietly. The woman who had once been a stranger was now part of their rhythm. Yet he still didn't ask about the photo. Until one night he found Claire sitting by the window, holding that same picture, tears silently streaming down her face. She was my daughter, Claire said softly when she noticed him standing there. Her name was Sophie. She passed away 3 years ago in a car accident. I couldn't handle it. My husband left after that. I lost everything. My home, my job, myself. Daniel's heart ached. He sat beside her, listening in silence, the pain in her words cutting deep. You're stronger than you think, he said finally. You survived what most people couldn't. She looked at him, eyes trembling, and for the first time, she saw not pity, but understanding. That night, as the snow fell quietly outside, two broken souls found a fragile sense of peace, not because their pain disappeared, but because they realized they weren't alone anymore. Weeks passed, and the cafe began to flourish. Customers loved the warmth that seemed to radiate from the place, not just from the coffee, but from the people behind the counter. Daniel and Claire worked side by side, their quiet glances slowly turning into something deeper, unspoken but undeniable. One Sunday morning, as they opened the cafe, Lily came running with a drawing she had made. It showed the three of them standing outside the cafe, smiling under a sunny sky. On top, she had written, "My family." Claire's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Daniel, who smiled softly and said, "She sees what's already true." But just when life seemed to be finding its rhythm again, Claire received a call that shook her. A job offer. In another city, far away. It was a chance to start over, to build a life again. But it also meant leaving behind the only people who had given her warmth after years of darkness. That night, she sat by Lily's bed, watching her sleep. Daniel entered quietly. "You should take it," he said, his voice steady but heavy. "You deserve a fresh start." Claire nodded slowly, tears glistening. "And what about you?" "About Lily?" He hesitated. "We'll miss you, but you'll always have a place here, always." The next morning, Claire packed her bag. Lily clung to her, refusing to let go. "Don't go," she cried. "Please stay with us." Claire knelt down, hugging her tightly. "You've given me a home when I didn't have one," she whispered. "I'll never forget you." As the taxi drove away, Daniel and Lily stood by the cafe window, watching her disappear into the distance. The cafe felt emptier, quieter. For days, Daniel couldn't bring himself to make a cappuccino without thinking of her. Lily, too, grew quieter, often staring at the empty chair by the window. But life has its own way of bringing back what's meant to be. 3 months later, on a bright spring morning, Daniel was serving customers when the bell over the cafe door rang. He turned, and there she was, Claire standing at the doorway, smiling through tears. "I couldn't stay away," she said softly. "Every coffee I made there tasted wrong, because home wasn't there. It's here," Lily squealed with joy, running into her arms. Daniel just stood there, speechless, as tears welled up in his eyes. She laughed through her tears. "If the offer still stands, can I stay with you?" He walked up to her, voice breaking. It never stopped standing. And just like that, the cafe, once a place of quiet sorrow, became a home again, filled with laughter, love, and second chances. Every morning, as Daniel brewed coffee and the smell filled the air, he'd glance at Claire and Lily sitting by the window, the family he never thought he'd have again. Because sometimes the most beautiful stories begin with a cup of coffee and a child's simple question that changes everything. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Silent Hope. Every small gesture helps us bring more stories of love, hope, and kindness to life. And before you go, tell us in the comments, do you believe that broken hearts can find home again?